Okay, so now we continue with, so we just saw about how the synapse takes place and how the neuron the impulse is going to travel from one axon to another dendrite or dendrite to axon. So that was using the synapse and using the sodium pump. Now we see the types of neurons. So there are three kinds of neurons. First one, sensory neuron, convey the impulse from the receptor, that is the sense organ, to the main nervous system, brain or the spinal cord. So when you touch this particular pen and you know that, oh, it's cold, okay, or it's hot. So that particular feeling that it is hot or cold, how it will reach? The sensations are felt over here. It travels from here, goes into the spinal cord and then maybe to the brain depending upon the conditions. And then it is understood that it was hot or cold or anything. So that particular movement, the sensation, so the nerve cells which are going to take the sensation from here to the spinal cord of the brain is called as the sensory neuron. So first is the sensory neuron. So the sensory neuron are the one which takes the impulses or take the information from the convey the impulses from the receptor, okay, that is the sensory organ, that is the receptor, to the main nervous system, that is the brain or the spinal cord. The next one is the motor nerve. So motor neuron, so motor neuron. Now once I know that this was hot, okay, the pen was hot, so what is the thing? The brain tells me that leave it immediately otherwise you will get burned. So leaving that particular thing is going to be done by the muscle. The muscle is going to release it, okay, the muscle is going to release, or they are going to contract or expand depending upon the conditions. So the muscle का जो movement होने वाला है जिसके कारण I was able to leave the pen, so that particular movement which is going to take place is going to be done by the help of an impulse which is given by the brain or the spinal cord to the muscles over here. So that is the one which is called as the motor neuron. Motor neuron is the one which is going to give your impulse, or it is going to give the instructions to the muscles of the gland to do a particular function. So that's why it is called as the motor neuron. So motor neuron carry the impulse from the main nervous system to an effector muscle or gland. And finally, there is an association or connecting neuron are located in the brain and the spinal cord which interconnect the sensory and the motor neurons. So यानी क्या हुआ? यहाँ से sensation आया spinal cord. Suppose I am the spinal cord. यहाँ से sensation आया spinal cord में गया. उसके बाद spinal cord उसको analyze करेगा और उसके बाद वो motor nerve को information देगा. So this in between over here, between the sensory and the motor, the connection, the neuron which is connecting the motor sensory with the neuron is the association neuron. So that's why what we have is the third one, which is association neuron. So the one which is connecting the impulses, that is connecting the neuron, the brain and the spinal cord, which interconnect the sensory and the motor neurons, are called as the association neuron. Now neuron is just one particular cell, but it is not going to happen that there is only one cell which is going from the spinal cord to all the different parts of my hand over here. No, it is not going to be that way. There will be multiple number of such neurons which are going to be bundled up in a form of a tube and going to be traveling from spinal cord to the hand. So that particular bundled up neurons are called as nerves. Okay, so there are the nerves. So that's why we see that nerve is a bundle of nerve fibers, axon, of separate neurons enclosed in a tubular sheath. So when the nerves are something which is enclosed in a tubular, so if you have got some, let's say we have got these 4 nerves, so when these 4 nerves are enclosed like this in a tubular sheath, then this now becomes a nerve. So that's a nerve which is a bundle of nerve fibers to separate neurons enclosed in a tubular sheath. Nerves are the thread-like white structures which emerges from the brain and spinal cord and branch out to almost all the parts of the body. A nerve may be compared to an underground electric cable containing numerous conducting wires, each insulated from the other. So as you can see in your house also, you have got wires coming from the main switchboard to the different instruments or different devices. But ऐसा नहीं होता कि हर एक के लिए अलग वायर अलग जगह से जाता है. There is always going to be they are going to be bunched up in one particular tube, and then they put it in a tube and then send it across. Then they branch it to the tube light, they branch it to the air conditioner or the refrigerator or the fan, and that's why the branching is taking place. So ये similarly जैसे वो electricity का सब branching होता है, वैसे ही हमारे body में भी we have got this branching taking place. So first there is the bundle. The bundle is the nerve cell, and the neurons are going to be branched later on. So that is why we are considering that is like that. And each and every wire we know that it is insulated. Similarly over here also the nerve cells are also insulated with the help of a myelin sheath. So myelin sheath is the insulation which is here to avoid the kind of like when somebody taps on me, I will understand that there is somebody tapped on my right shoulder and not my left shoulder. Okay, I'm not going to get confused about the fact that where that particular tapping was done, or whether somebody told me to lift my right hand and I am lifting my left hand. No, it will never be that way. We are going to use the thing because of the sensations what we are having. So now maybe compared to an underground electric tunnel cable containing numerous conducting wires is insulated from other. The myelin sheath and the axon acts like an insulation and prevents mixing of impulses in the adjacent axon. So if there are if there is a number of the wires going like this, so if this is the end which I am talking about, if you are touching this, these are not going to be affected at all. Okay, so we are touching the blue one, so the blue one is going to give the information that okay, somebody is tapping at that area. So somebody touches my, or if I'm keeping my eyes closed and somebody is pricking some pins on my different fingers, I can easily know that which finger they are pricking me. So that is because each and every axon from here and here, they all are separated out or by a myelin sheath, which is the insulating sheath, which will not mix up the impulses between them. Accordingly, there are three kinds of nerves. They are as follows. So जैसे different kind of neurons है, वैसे different kind of nerves भी है. So again the same thing, sensory nerve, the nerve which is going to be from the sense organs to the brain and the spinal cord. So sensory nerves contain only sensory fibers bringing impulses from the receptor, that is a sense organ, to the brain or the spinal cord. For example, optic nerve arising from the eye and the ending in the brain. So the optic eye is arising from the eye and goes into the brain. So that is a sensory nerve. Okay. Second is motor nerve. Yeah, the same thing, motor nerve. So motor nerve containing only motor fibers. So yeah, we have got over here, this gives you sensory nerve. Then there are motor nerve. So motor nerve is the one which is going to be transmitting the impulses from the brain or spinal cord to the effector muscle or the brain. So muscle or the gland. So motor nerves contain only motor fibers carrying impulses from the brain or spinal cord to the effector organ, muscle or gland to bring them into action. For example, a nerve arising from the brain and supplying the muscle of the eyeball for rotating the eye. So I can move the eyes because the motor nerve is telling the brain from the brain there is an impulse going to the muscles of the eye, which is able to move the iris of the eye. Thirdly is mixed nerve. Now there are many parts in our body. So association जैसा इसमें नहीं होता. The next one over here, the third one is mixed nerve. Now we have certain parts of our body which are not only going to sense that thing, but also do the process of affecting the thing. So are those, they contain both the sensory and the motor. So those particular parts of our body which contains both the sensory as well as the motor nerve in them, they are called as the mixed nerve. For example, the spinal nerve. The spinal nerve is there. Otherwise, it's the tongue. The tongue is also called the mixed nerve. Why? Because you can even move the tongue. I am able to speak because of the movement of the tongue. At the same time, I can also taste the thing. So the tasting and the thing is going to be done by the same particular part. So that's why it is the mixed nerve. Okay, so that is a mixed nerve. And then there are ganglia, are the aggregates of the nerve cells, cell bodies, from which the nerve fibers may arise or enter into. So जैसे तुम लोगों को पता है कि अगर ये इस तरह से है, and then there is one which is coming out from here or coming, so that particular area where it is coming out or entering inside the nerve, so the point from where the axons are coming outside of the nerve cells to go into their respective areas, is that particular point is called as the ganglia. Singular is ganglion. So that is the aggregates of the nerve cells from which the nerve fibers may arise or enter into. So that was about the general structure of the nervous system, or we can say the neurons and the nerves. We now see the main part of the chapter, that is the main parts of the nervous system. Okay, we can now see that what are the organs of the nervous system. Now the organs of the nervous system can be easily divided into two parts. One is called as the central nervous system, which is taking care of the complete thinking and voluntary involuntary activities and main motor, and the one which is going to be taking part in the control of the body is going to be the central nervous system, CNS. It includes the brain lying in the skull, the spinal cord contained in the vertebral column. So that is the brain and the spinal cord forms the central nervous system. You can compare it to your computer. See, in the computer you have got a CPU. Okay, the CPU contains the hard disk, the RAM and everything, the motherboard and everything. So that CPU is nothing but the central nervous system, CNS, or that's why you call it CPU, the central processing system unit. So CPU is similar to the CNS, that is central nervous system. And then the keyboard, the mouse, the monitor for the display, or the printer, they are all the peripherals. They are the peripheries. They are the one which are going to bring about the data, or they are going to display the data. So that is the periphery. Similarly, in our body, they are the peripheral nervous system. PNS includes the nerves that emerges from and enter into the spinal cord, so the nerves which are going out of the spinal cord or entering into the spinal cord, of course, to which places? Either the effector muscle or the gland or the sensory organs. So that particular way the nerves जो वहाँ पे जाते हैं, they are called as a peripheral nervous system. So that's why we have got the two nervous system, that is the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Again, the peripheral nervous system is made up of two kinds of system. One is the somatic nervous system, that is conveys the information of skeletal voluntary muscles. So जो भी voluntary activities जो भी है, which is going to be taken care of by the body, is the somatic nervous system, that is the body nervous system we can say. And other is autonomic nervous system, ANS, includes a pair of chains of ganglia and nerves which control the involuntary actions of many internal organs, smooth muscles, heart muscles and glands. So the movement of the heart, the movement of the lungs, the movement of the stomach, all those things which are internal, they are the involuntary activities which is going to be taken care of. That is taken care of by the autonomic nervous system, ANS. So that's why we see that the nervous system is divided into central nervous system, or it is peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system into two parts, somatic nervous system and we have got the autonomic nervous system. Now let's see in detail about the central nervous system. So we start our thing with brain. So first thing what we have is the brain. So we have we talk about this nervous system. We have got the our nervous system divided into two parts. That is, the first one is the central nervous system and the other one is peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system again divided into two parts. The one is somatic and the other one is autonomic. Okay, somatic and autonomic. The central nervous system consists of two parts, the brain and the spinal cord. Okay, the brain and the spinal cord. So first of all, the brain, and in the brain also there are many parts. So first of all, we just talk about the brain. In portion of the size of the body, the human brain is largest among all animals. See, compared to the body size, okay, what is our height and what is our size and all, तो उसके comparison में our brain is the biggest. Elephant इतना बड़ा है पर उसका body के comparison में उसका brain कितना है, बहुत छोटा है. Body के comparison में, I don't say that the brain of elephant brain is smaller than our brain. No, it is much bigger than our brain. But as compared to its own volume, the volume of the brain of an elephant or any particular animal will be less than what is there in humans. The brain is very delicate organ, well protected inside the brain box, cranium of the skull. So we have got this skull, which is the outer part over here, and the brain is well protected inside the skull. So the skull is the outer part and there is a brain which is inside the brain box or the cranium of the skull. The adult brain weighs about 1.35 kg and constitutes about 2% of the total body weight. So approximate weight of the brain, which is over here, is 1.35 kg and it is approximately equal to 2% of the body weight of an adult human being. It is 80% water and consumes more than 25%, that is 1/4 of the total oxygen taken in by the body. See, brain nerve cells, they are very, very important, and that's why they take away the maximum amount of, see, brain requires to do a lot of functions, so it requires a lot of sodium pump work to be done. So more ATP required. More ATP required means more oxygen required. More oxygen required means it is, you can see that brain takes around 25% of the oxygen which we inhale. Whatever in respiration we are taking, whatever oxygen we are taking in during respiration, out of that 25% of the oxygen is being utilized by the brain. So that's why, and otherwise the brain consists of 80% water and it takes about 25% of the oxygen which is present in the body. The brain has got covering. So brain, of course, it's a very, very important organ, and that's why it requires a lot of protection. The skull is the main protection, but it's the outside protection. But as such, even the brain, the whole brain is made up of the tissues which will be having 3 layers of protection. So that's why the coverings or meninges, coverings of the brain are called as meninges. The brain is protected by 3 membranous coverings called meninges, membranes, which continue backwards on the spinal cord. So not only the brain, it also continues backward into the spinal cord. So the meninges are there right into the brain, from the brain to the spinal cord. The 3 kinds of coverings are, first one is dura mater. Dura mater, the outermost tough fibrous membrane is dura. Dura is tough, so it is the outermost part of the brain is the dura mater. The outermost covering of the brain is made up of dura mater, which is a tough covering outside. Uske niche under the second layer is arachnoid. Now arachnoid is a thin, delicate middle layer giving a web-like cushion. So it is a thin membranous one, so it will be delicate middle layer which will be like a sandwich in between the two, so which is going to absorb the shocks. So it is like a web cushion, because erect means a spider, so it's like a web. And finally pia mater, the innermost highly vascular membrane richly supplied with blood. that is pia means tender. So that's why the pia mater is the tender part, very soft part, which is there inside the innermost part, and that is having a lot of blood vessels in it. So richly supplied with blood vessels. And so we see that meninges are the three coverings. Whenever there is an inflammation, that is swelling of the meninges, and there is a then the person is suffering from the disease called meningitis. So meningitis is the inflammation of the meninges. Inflammation means swelling or water retention of that particular part. So meningitis is the inflammation of the meninges. The space between the covering membrane is filled with a watery fluid. So between the three layers, that is the dura mater, arachnoid and pia mater, उसके बीच में का जो layer है वहाँ पे भी क्या है? There is a fluid. That fluid which is there is called as cerebrospinal fluid. It is a cerebrospinal fluid which is present in between the layers or the coverings of the brain and the spinal cord. The space between the covering membrane is filled with a watery fluid, cerebrospinal fluid, which acts like a cushion to protect the brain from shocks. The same fluid also fills the central space, ventricles of the brain and central canal of the spinal cord. So the same fluid is not only in the brain, but the same fluid is also in the central spaces of the brain, जहाँ पे बीच में गैप्स है उसमें भी, और स्पाइनल कॉर्ड के अंदर भी बीच में, that is the cerebrospinal fluid. Okay, so this was the structure or the important parts of the brain. Now we see the details of the brain, that is how the brain is divided into other parts. So brain is not just one unit, it is made up of three units, that is the cerebrum, cerebellum and the medulla oblongata. So first one is, so brain, I can see the brain can be further divided into three parts. One is cerebrum, next is cerebellum, and next is medulla oblongata. Okay. So first thing is cerebrum. Now the cerebrum is this part. This part of the brain is the cerebrum. If you want to see, if you want to just feel the shape of a cerebrum, you can see the walnut. Now walnut, when you open it up, तो वो दो part में divide हो जाता है. Because walnut is spherical, but when you divide it into two halves, so one half of the walnut is similar to the cerebrum. The cerebrum is similar to that walnut which is there, having the folds and grooves inside and the two hemispheres inside. So that is how the cerebrum would actually look like, similar to look like. So cerebrum, the cerebrum is the largest portion of the brain. It is divided into two halves, right half and the left half. So there is the right half and the left half, same way as the walnut. Walnut में भी spherical खोल दिया, उसके बाद में भी जो part है उसमें भी दो part दिखेंगे तुम लोग को, the right part and the left part. They are called as the cerebral hemispheres. Okay, the right part, right cerebral hemisphere, and the left cerebral hemisphere. Their outer surface is highly convoluted with ridges and grooves. So there is too much of ups and downs and ridges and grooves in the outer part of the cerebrum. Okay. Each cerebral hemisphere is hollow internally, and the walls have two regions, an outer cortex and the inner portion medulla. So yeah, the cerebrum is going to be having two layers. The hemisphere will be hollow internally, and the two walls, the walls have two regions. One is the outer region and the inner region. Outer region cortex, inner region medulla. Always it will be that way. I told you earlier also during the explanation of kidney that outer part is the cortex and inner part is the medulla. The outer portion, cortex of the cerebrum, contains cell bodies of the neurons and being greyish in color, called as grey matter. So very important point over here. The outer part, that is the cortex of the cerebrum, contains the neurons and being greyish in color. They are the neurons which are there and they are greyish in color, and that's why it is called as the grey matter. So The brain has got the outer part grey in color. Okay, outer part is grey in color in case of the cerebrum. It is a layer of grey matter which is folded to form convolutions. The folds are called gyri and the grooves are called sulci. That is the creases. Such a system increases surface area to accommodate more nerve cells. See, basically what we need is more number of nerve cells so that it can do the work of the nervous system much more efficiently, and due to this particular reason, they are all in folds and there will be too many grooves and folds, so that it increases the surface area, and on increasing the surface area, more number of nerve cells can be accommodated in that particular part. So the folds are called as the gyri and the grooves are called as the sulci. It is believed that higher number of convolutions in the human brain is due to the large number of brain nerve cells and hence greater intelligence. So yeah, they say, it is believed, there is no fact and figures for that, but it is believed that one who is more intelligent will be having more ridges and grooves inside. So the grooves and the folds will be much more in an intelligent person as compared to other person. The inner portion of the cerebrum consists of white matter which mainly contains axons of the nerves. So, बाहर cyton grey color के और अंदर axon white color के. Okay. So, inner part of the brain is white in color when the outer part is grey in color. Okay. Brain white matter inside. So, we can say IBMW. So inside brain BMW matter white. Okay, so IBMW, you can remember this thing. IBMW. BMW तो मालूम ही है. IBMW क्यों? Inner brain matter white. Okay, inner brain matter white, or white matter is inside the brain and grey matter outside the brain. So brain का कंडीशन कैसा है? आउटसाइड इज साइटॉन, इनसाइड इज एक्सॉन. ओके, बिकॉज ब्रेन को यहाँ पे साइटॉन क्यों अंदर है, ऊपर है, क्योंकि वो सब उधर नर्व सेल्स है, दैट इज द साइटॉन. एंड देन देयर आर द axons which move inside and go into the different parts of the body and all. So that's why it will be axons which will be inside. So axons are white colors, and so axons are white in color, which is the white matter which is inside. Next is corpus callosum, very important part, heart body. Corpus callosum is a sheet of fibers connecting the two spherical hemispheres. Its function is to transfer information from one hemisphere to another hemisphere. So, ये hemisphere या another hemisphere ये दोनों connected है. ये दोनों connected है by a sheet over here. The sheet which is connecting this two thing over here is called as corpus callosum. It is called as corpus callosum. So corpus callosum is the one which is connecting the two hemispheres of the cerebrum. Okay, the sheet which connects the two hemispheres of the cerebrum is called as corpus callosum. The highly developed cortex, the grey matter, enables us to think, reason out, invent, plan and memorize. Overall, the cerebrum is the seat of intelligence, consciousness and willpower. It controls all voluntary actions. For example, actions. Figure 10.6 shows some major functions associated with the different areas of the brain. So you can see that they have found out that the brain which is there, they have got the different areas. So in the frontal part over here is the speech and the memory, बीच में thinking, उसके बाद में sensation, पीछे vision, right? Body balance is over here, hearing is somewhere here. So in this way, different areas of the brain has got different functionalities, and that's why it is the seat of intelligence, consciousness and all voluntary activities. Each and every voluntary activity what we need to do is going to be controlled, or it is going to be set into action by the cerebrum. So what is generally called subconscious or unconscious mind is also located in the cerebrum. So whatever subconscious or unconscious mind, what we think, means unconsciously or subconsciously I just did particular thing, I don't even remember that I did it. So that is also done with the help of the cerebrum. Many past experiences are covered up by more recent impressions which dominate conscious activity. In dreams or when hypnotized and skillful question, past experiences may be recalled. You can always see that you don't remember everything. When you try to remember, you're not. But if somebody asks you a question or somebody just gives you a link or just a hint about something, then automatically everything gets recalled. अरे हाँ मैं याद है ये हुआ था, and हाँ then we went there and then we went there. तो वो सब क्या पहले क्या था? ऐसे if it is just asked to you about this thing, do you remember that place? Then you will say no, I don't remember. And then you say हम लोग ऐसे गए थे, फिर ऐसे किया था, फिर ऐसा किया था. तो automatically then it starts coming up. So this is how the data is stored in our brain, but it requires skillful questioning and maybe hypnotizing is also one of the method of getting that thing out. So this is how you can get the data out from your brain. So that is the part of cerebrum. Now we move to the next part of the brain, which is called as cerebellum. So I think I'll just do it in the next video.